To say this year was do or die for DC's film and television IP would be an understatement. After a decade of being the butt of every joke, the pitiful end of the DCEU film franchise, and the segue to the DCU helmed under James Gunn, led to a messy discussion of its future. The task on James and crew's shoulders was monumental. Non-stop jeers, heckling, and lies spread by spiteful, bitter Snyder Bros. The depressed and defeated mentality of DC fans after 10 years of edgy slop, and seeing a potentially good Batgirl movie torpedoed by the Grim Reaper of Warner Brothers to save pennies as a tax write-off. Fuck him, by the way, for that. Along with a relentless, never-ending media presence with noses pressed against the glass to see if the DCU would finally step up and contend with a currently floundering and rudderless MCU. With 2025 coming to a close, did the DCU end its year on a high note? I mean, yes, the bar left behind by the DCEU was in hell, but even with that handicap, how did Team Gunn do as we head into the next year? Hey team, Phantom Skull, the super security VTuber here, and today we're looking at the DCU's 3 main outings in 2025 to see how they turned out, the overall reaction to them, and take a peek at the future for the franchise looking into 2026, particularly with, recent events. Not gonna lie, not particularly positive about that one. So spoilers ahead for the following. Also, since I've already got videos out covering all 3 of these properties, maybe too many for one of them, we'll be assuming you've seen them all, and we'll be summarizing and skimming through all 3. Let's dial it back to early this year, when the first of the DCU's official outings was about to hit HBO Max. One that may not have fired on all cylinders, and was treated as an appetizer for the Big Blue later this year, but one that captured the hearts of many, particularly those who hate Nazis. Time to talk about the misadventures of Task Force M, otherwise known as... Creature Commandos was a mostly positive mixed bag when it came out in the first half of 2025. It was very much a gun with the corporate training weights taken off production similar to his Peacemaker show. A show that was edgy black comedy done right, and a genre that Gunn is a master of. While I wish the overall plot was less Unalive Squad setup but with monster flick character archetypes, and a more proper spooky supernatural Black Ops story a la Hellboy, the amazing ensemble cast more than made up for its standard and at times confusing political drama plot beats. The surly and badass bride, sweet trauma magnet Nina, lovable tragic psychopath Dr. Phosphorus, Weasel, who they somehow made us give a shit about, Rick Flag Sr. Was there, but none held a candle to the man, the myth, the meme legend, G.I. Robot. This little Nazi-killing-obsessed veteran was unambiguously the fan favorite for his brief time in Season 1, who would end up becoming a popular meme on social media for calling out fascist dog whistling from the, usual suspects, and we'll leave it at that. While he was very detached from the plot, Frankenstein was a lovable and love-to-hate lunatic side villain to follow during the events of Season 1. While I know some folks weren't fond of how different this version was from his comics counterpart, they at least made him monstrously entertaining. While the plot got a little messy, particularly with the princess's exact goals and motivations for why she was planning to murk the entire planet with a homicidal super gorilla, it was fun for what it was. If I had any nitpicks, it's a recurring problem with DC properties yoinking Wonder Woman villains and putting them in anything but a Wonder Woman project, and using one of her heavy hitters like Cersei as a red herring who gets bodied by a weasel man who looks 80 pounds soaking wet, was an Olympian-sized disrespect in my opinion. Regardless, it was a fun, character-driven adventure that helped set the tone and setting for the new DC universe. As I said, Creature Commandos, like Peacemaker, is edge done right. There's a soul behind the shocking moments. You actually feel something for these characters. Everyone has layers. With Season 2 in the works, I'm excited to see what other wild adventures are in store for these monstrous agents of Orgus. But as fun as Creature Commandos was, there was another movie this year that was the real moment of truth, but not just James Gunn as the spearhead of the DCU, but its entire viability as an IP, the most contentiously speculated movie up until its premiere. In summer 2025, we would see if Superman would take flight again. The lead up to its release in July of this year was a testament to the culture shift happening within DC fandoms. The non-stop heckling from bitter Snyder Bros or the usual suspects who took issue with Gunn's supposed woke writing in the forms of a more empathetic and emotionally vulnerable Superman. The constant speculation and coverage, the continual hopes and worries that have plagued Big Blue as a viable IP since his constant stumbling in the DCEU. With respect to Henry Cavill, in July, we found out if people still cared about truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And why am I teasing this when we all know what happened? This movie rocked everyone's socks off. This movie was more than a major success. It was an entire vibe shift for the superhero film scene. People fell in love with David Cornsweat's dorky, empathetic Superman, were blown away by Nicholas Hoult giving one of the most show-stopping and truest to the source material Lex Luthor performances in the history of live-action Superman projects. Hell, they took Mr. Terrific and with a quarter of the screen time, did what Ironheart failed to do with an entire season. Endear everyone to a snarky, smartass black tech hero and turn him into an overnight sensation with his own spin-off in the works. While it wasn't a major success overseas, I less blame the movie itself and similar to Gunn's takeaway, more so on a lot of foreign moviegoers lacking a lot of cultural insight with Big Blue, along with superhero fatigue, and only seeing a patriotic American superhero at a time when America is seen as that edgy racist kid nobody wants to sit at the lunch table with, due to the psychopathic rodeo clown steering the ship at the moment. But at home, Superman blew past everyone's expectations. Almost everything in this movie fired on all cylinders, and sold moviegoers on one of the truest takes on Superman and his entire mythos, ideals, and persona to resounding success. Superman was more than just a good superhero movie. It was a movie that made me feel again. This was a version of Big Blue I've wanted on the big screen for so long. An alien being with unfathomable power, but a paragon of empathy and kindness, being the greatest representative of the best of humanity. This movie was such a palate cleanser after a decade of bleak, edgy slop that was too busy cranking its own boom tube, so to speak, with its modern gods theme, to focus on what DC Comics characters have always been about. Godlike beings choosing to be human beings. This movie is a vulnerable Superman rising above the spite, cruelty, and cynicism of an Earth that's too comfortable taking cues from its Lex Luthors and creeps like Gurkos. Superman inspiring humanity to be better than their worst was a message we badly needed at a time when the Lex Luthors of our own time are attempting to make empathy and compassion for others a sign of weakness. The amount of kids who I saw actually take Soups' comment about kindness being the real punk rock to heart made me have hope for a better tomorrow. While its haters are still living in Delulu Town over its success, Gunn has made it clear Superman is the standard bearer for the DCU moving forward. While we have a few years till we see Big Blue again, there's no denying his success has paved the way for hope for the entire franchise. And with hope being Superman's entire thing, I can safely say we're off to a good start. The last entry in the DCU's 2025 lineup is one I've discussed at length in other videos. What should have been a victory lap for the production house was more of a victory stumble, from a certain point of view. The exact discussion about Peacemaker's second season is a messy one, rife with clashing fan expectations, and a finale that felt more like setup for the DCU than a satisfying conclusion for the troubled anti-hero. If you asked viewers their thoughts on it, you'd probably get a lot of different responses. Some call it the greatest written superhero character drama of this year. Others a bait-and-switch slog with little of the black comedy superhero charm people loved in Season 1. And others somewhere in between and still finding the finale to be a letdown, more interested in setting up future DCU projects, or for being a satisfying end for Peacemaker's second season. Look, I've got 5 videos on Peacemaker, and I don't want to repeat myself too much here, so I'll keep this segment short. It was an audacious move to shift to a character drama with superhero dressing in my opinion. And when I turned off my superhero spectacle brain, This show had some of the best damn character writing in a superhero property of this decade. John Cena and Danielle Brooks deserve awards for the performances they gave. While the lack of its edgy superhero charm this season was irksome in some areas, and I feel like they could have balanced the season finale to have a more satisfying ending, while still setting up Salvation Run. Peacemaker Season 2 was still a fun ride to Feelstown that made me hopeful for what's to come, particularly with a Checkmate spin-off show in the works. We may have a bit till we see Chris get some kind of happy ending, assuming he doesn't become Dino Chow. But he's still the gold standard of black comedy anti-hero fun. Speaking of what's to come, next year is definitely going to be an interesting year looking at what they've got loaded in the chamber. At some currently unknown point in early 2026, we've got Lanterns with a creative trifecta of Chris Mundy, Damon Lindelof, and for better or for worse, depending on how you feel about his comic work, Tom King. A crime thriller streaming show that's both a comeback arc for Hal Jordan after his last disastrous outing, and the live-action introduction to fan-favorite Lantern Jon Stewart. With what little plot points we've got about it being a murder mystery in the Heartland, people who are thinking future non-gun movies would be less political, all I can say is, it's a show about space cops made by Tom King and David Lindelof, aka the guy who made that Watchmen show that covered the Tulsa race riot, the dumbassery of white supremacy, and generational trauma from America's racism. If you're the type to complain about Superman or Peacemaker's woke politics, all I can say is strap in, since I don't think you're going to be too happy with this one either. Then in June, we've got Soups' surly cousin Kara with her first DCU movie outing directed by Greg Gillespie. It's unfortunate that even when they put his name in big bold letters, folks still decided to complain about this being another Gunn movie on social media. Traveling the galaxy with Crypto to celebrate her 23rd birthday, the woman of Scotch finds herself entangled in a journey with a revenge-driven alien girl that also involves Jason Momoa getting his dream casting as the main man alien biker himself, Lobo. This one definitely gives off family-friendly Peacemaker vibes, with the story about a snarky anti-hero needing to confront trauma they keep refusing to handle. And now I can't stop headcanoning Chris and Kara might have had at least one messy drunken hookup together. We have established blondes are his thing. Gonna be interesting to see how this shakes out compared to her cousin's movie, but definitely on my watch list. Then in September, the DCU wraps up the year with perhaps its most intriguing movie being brought to us by James Watkins, Clayface. A movie solely focused on one of Batman's villains is an interesting choice. But perhaps the most interesting tidbit we know so far is that this movie is confirmed to be a horror movie, not a superhero movie. So people worried this would be a repeat of Sony's abysmal attempts to make anti-hero movies based off of Spider-Man villains can rest assured this one understands the assignment. The only plot bits we know is that it's about an actor who gets disfigured by a gangster, and in desperation goes to a shady scientist for an experimental procedure that turns his body into clay. Given that so far the biggest inspiration production has given for the movie is The Fly, I can safely say this isn't the story of a hero, or even an anti-hero. Clayface is arguably the most unique of the three confirmed projects for 2026, and being a big fan of scary movies, I hope they decide to go all in on this and not peter out halfway. And while we have little to no info on the following beyond the fact they exist and are on the to-do list, we've got quite a feast of projects down the pipeline. We already have a Superman sequel in the works with confirmation Brainiac as the big bad, an Authority movie, Swamp Thing getting another go, a Brave and the Bold movie.
Don't bother with the mind control, Grodd. I'm blocking it with a technique I learned in Tibet.
No, sadly not about that Batman, but still. And a Wonder Woman movie is in the works as well. Alongside that, we got more streaming shows coming, such as Paradise Lost, a 1D prequel about Themyscira, Booster Gold of all things, as stated, Creature Commandos Season 2, and a political thriller about Waller and seeing what she's been up to since her kid narked on her illegal Black Ops shenanigans. We also got the third season of My Adventures with Superman coming sometime next year, and a spin-off show about Jessica Cruz in the same anime-askew vein in the works. All things considered, things are looking bright for DC fans. Were looking bright. Then everything changed when the corpo started doing corpo things. I'm not a business expert, so I'll stick to my lane with this discussion. But from a creative side, buyouts and mergers are rarely good things. Case in point, the utter shit show the Discovery buyout was for DC thanks to the decisions made by this clown. Mergers and buyouts almost always screw over the creatives, and it's just about lining the corpo's pockets as much as possible. In this battle between Netflix and Paramount, it's arguably a choice of if the creatives are about to get screwed over with or without lube. And for better or for worse, Netflix is the lube option. But calling it a battle would be giving Paramount a little too much credit, since their attempts at negotiations and offers come off more like a desperate boyfriend trying to get back with a girl who is thrice done with his shit. At the very least, what semi-credible information we've been able to glean, Netflix isn't interested in killing the golden goose after purchase, and Gunn and crew aren't planned to be on the chopping block with all of this nonsense. A tragic day for the Snyder Bros and edgelords everywhere, I know. But anything can happen in the crazy land of business and buyouts, so we'll have to wait and see how this all shakes out. As 2025 comes to a close, the DCU can hold its head high with a solid A- in my opinion, even when you filter out the screeching of the bad faith bozos and clickbaiters. It was a strong first year with a few low moments that were ultimately a little subjective. Even with the looming unknowns of corporate meddling, the DC property is in a much healthier and hopeful state than it was under the DCEU brand. We have a whole new year of adventures ahead of us. Before we end the video, I'm also going to use this to briefly do a year-end message for my channel, since this will be the last video of 2025. The channel has gone through a lot of changes this first year of serious content creation, but I can't thank you all enough for the love and support you've shown me as we move into 2026. Ending the year a couple hundred shy of 3K subs is just an amazing milestone for me. Being someone who does all my editing, recording, and production in between a full-time job, streaming, and family responsibilities, the love and support you've all given has continued to motivate me to do more and better videos in the future. I also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the long list of artists, creators, and friends who help me in areas I can't do on my own. I gotta thank Yue Yin, who designed my first model. While I ended up retiring it this fall for the one you see now, she helped me get my start as the super security VTuber you know and love. And in turn, I need to show some love for my current model artist, Ruby Cafe. They've been an absolute delight to work with, and I can't wait to work with them on more projects in 2026. And I need to give all the love to my friend Susu Tandem. She's been my dearest friend in the VTuber scene, and was the rigging artist for my first VTuber model, and currently rigging this model at the moment. I feel blessed to have such a kind and lovely cat-girl racer in my VTubing adventures. I also need to shout out my best buddy, No Limit 3020. They've been my longtime friend and fellow writer, and has been an invaluable help with proofreading my scripts when they have time in between their full-time streaming. I highly recommend checking out their streams, especially if you're a big fan of Nintendo and Zenless Zone Zero, as they make amazing funny content in those categories. I also gotta shout out my fellow VTuber pal Crazy Moon here, who was a big help in learning the secret sauce of handling YouTube streaming and algorithms. He's a very talented streamer who deserves a lot more love, so go check him out. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out JMW Films and Pro Gamer Dude, two incredible YouTubers I've played GTA RP with for almost 4 years now. In my adventures on this server, I've had the pleasure of playing with, and sometimes helping out with their videos, on the best Grand Theft Auto RP server, Pro Gamer Network. I've been playing PGN for 4 years now, and the amazing adventures and friends I've made there helped inspire me both with my VTuber concept, and to get the confidence to finally step out onto the starting line as a content creator. And there's a whole slew of vgen artists I need to shout out whose amazing work continue to elevate my content. I gotta thank CB and 88 Studios, who both worked on my stream emotes, Josan for my ending animation, Nalem Studio for my amazing security office backdrop, and Rio Artwork for my new logo. With 2026, I will say while we will be shifting to more character crossover comparison videos, I will always make time to check in on the DC side of superhero things. Lord knows you're not here for my Marvel content. Superman and the gang are my favorite characters who all have a special place in my heart, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on it and other things as we roll into 2026. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the new year soon enough.